Right, you have to bear with me whilst I'm just getting this prepped up, and then we'll have a look at it properly in a minute. Let's say messy bench, messy mind. It's from the inside of my head, isn't it? Stuff everywhere, everything happening all the time. There we go. Right, let's get this marked out. So I'm just back marking this so I can drill some holes in it to fix it, because I'm just sort of trial assembling this cross member, and then we can have a look at what I'm actually doing in a minute. Right, so these are the little Avdale clips that I use for assembly. So I'm just trying to get this all to hold itself together. So that's the top. It goes there. That on there. As well. We just go on there like that. And then we've got that bit to go on. But that has to sit underneath there a bit. So that just sits under there like that. That'll help trap it. I've marked that already to give me an idea where it goes. So that'll go there like that. Right, that's it. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm making. Front cross member for a FIAT Dino Spyder. So all this is new. That's an original part that we've taken off the original damaged and rusty item, and then again that is off the original one as well, which I've straightened out, and we fitted that onto it. So that's that. These sort of little swagey holes are where the radiator sits in, the little pins on the bottom of the radiator, and I've been taking dimensions as I go. That panel's going to be that panel there. Now these are only 1 mil thick, so they're really not up to it. They're not, you know, I've discussed this in the past, said these aren't strong enough. And that's supposed to be a jacking point, but I would never use that on these, because these just destroy themselves if you use that. And also the end of these boxes are not enclosed. On the coupe they close these in, which will help, you know, give it a bit more strength, as it were, whereas these don't, so they're always open. I have closed them up before in the past on some, but I don't think it's necessary. We'll stick with this, because what I've done is I made this out of 1.5. So originally the bit that goes onto the car itself, this part is in 1.5 that has these bits in it. So that's already at 1.5 as per factory. And then I've beefed this up to 1.5 and that up to 1.5. So once that's assembled, that's going to be a lot stronger. And the increase in weight is going to be so negligible that it's not worth, you know, worrying about. So that's that part. That one's the bit. That one is what's left of that bit, which will be that part. Which then this mount goes on. This is for the vacuum tank for your brakes. So you can see that's why we're replacing it. Now I've got to make some wiring tangs up. These little bits can fit to it as well. Don't worry, the red's not blood, it's paint. but these are sharp and horrible. And then, where did I put the rest of it? Oh, the rest of it's down here. I'll bring it along, I'll bring it here. So that's the bit that was on the car, the 1.5 bit, which actually wasn't in too bad condition, that part, but where it joins the chassis, I had a big hole in it. So that's why that got done. And I've got to make these tangs up as well. Now these tangs, from memory, I think it carries the pipe to the vacuum tank, or it might be a bit of wiring as well, I don't know. But anyway, so that was, you know, that's no good. This is what we're doing. Whilst I'm about it, I'm making up some extra, making up another one, because it always pays to, you know, make up extra whilst I'm doing it. And I'm also taking patterns for the future. See, so that one will become this piece, you see. Because I want to be able to create these panels, you know, they need doing. They'll need a, you know, it isn't the only rusty Dino, this one, or the other one. That's 2 rusty Dinos here. They're all going to need them. So this is just me working on some other bits. So there's another one that I was working on, which is another pattern. That was one sort of development, but I realised we need to make that part longer, so I've adjusted that pattern accordingly. and so on, and I've got my dimensions on them, so I'll transfer all my dimensions onto it, and then they can go up on the wall with my other patterns, and we can keep them. We'll have a look on the car in a minute, see where it goes, and get a better idea of it. But yeah, you see how it sort of box section, effectively makes a box section, and it's got a kick back on itself there, so that has to sort of fold back there like that, and then this one has to do the same, follow that, and obviously it all got to be assembled. Now this will get assembled on and off the car. So a lot of this will get assembled to it, off the car, and spot welded together. But then that bit, this part will have to go on the car first, because this is where the chassis rails will join onto it, and you can't get up behind to spot weld it with it all enclosed like that. So this will get fitted in one part, that bit will go on the car, then all this will go onto it afterwards, which I think is how the factory did it. It looks a lot like that anyway. It looks like they did something similar. So there we are. So yeah, we'll have a look at the car in a minute. Right, so that's got to go up in there. It has to go up behind these bumper mounts, which I think we will have to do in 2 bits. A little bit like how I said we'll have to assemble it on the car anyway, in 2 parts. So take that one off there, that one off there, and then these 2 off. And that should allow us to split it. And then what I should have is I should have that there. So that will give us that one. And we'll pop that up in there like that. So that will go up in there like that. Now this, as I say, I think I'll probably have to assemble this off the car. You know, sorry, this will go on first, then the other bit will go on it. So what I think, but even just for trial fitting, I think I've got to do it in 2 bits. So I don't think it'll pop up in there in one go, not to get behind those bumper brackets. Obviously, if you didn't have the bumper brackets there, maybe you could do it that way round and fit them afterwards. Right, okay, you get the idea. So that's how to fit on. Obviously, you know, it's just clamping it on quickly. But yeah, that's the idea. That's where it fits like that. And I say that then joins onto the lower cross member, or the lower panel of the front valance. So if I bring that over, and you can sort of see what that would do. So here's our lower front valance, and you can see, so that part there is that bit, and you can see how it's all ripped up and rotten horrible, so that's what it is. So yeah, that joins on there, and it will spot weld through here. And that's why it has these V's in it, so it sort of kicks back, but it also, this is an arc, so it follows through an arc, so you can see that's not straight, that's why it's arced. I'll put a straight edge on it in a minute, but obviously that all pops up in there eventually, you know, something like that, effectively. But we're a little way away from that, but that's the idea. So that's the rough construction of it. I'll get a straight edge and you'll see how much that curls, how much curve there is on there. There you go, so that's it. So there's a straight edge on there. So you can see sort of how much it will curve up round effectively, sort of, you know, as the valance would curl round. So that will follow the contour of it. So that's not a straight, you know, this isn't straight. It does curl round to follow the contour of the lower valance. And that's only out of 1 mil, but that only needs to be 1 mil because that's literally just holding this on. The strength is in the cross member behind. This is just outer body work. It's just thin stuff. So yeah, that's that. I'll put a radiator in and we'll get sort of an idea of how it centralises. And there is a radiator. And then that should pop down in here. And then we see how these locate down into those holes. See, like that. But they'll have rubber grommets that go in there to help that, you know, but that's how they fit. And then the radiator bolts on through here, so that needs to line up with those as well, those bolt holes, which it will do. So that will sit up a bit because of the rubber grommets, and then that will go in there like that. So that will be just right. That's that bit, and the engine goes in there. One day. which is what they're all about, isn't it, these Dinos? It's, the styling's beautiful, but if it didn't have a Dino engine, that Ferrari Dino engine in it, it'd just be a pretty car. But you know, with that in it, it's something pretty special in it. It makes it that much more special having that Ferrari engine in the Fiat. So yeah, that's a cross member, and that's how they construct. And if we have a look around the side here, we can see some other stuff going on this one. We've got a half wing that I've made for it, and we made the inner sill boxing plate's been made, done that, and then this is the sort of landing panel, and this is crucial, this, because this is what all of your wings, your front and rear, tie into. So then you have this top sill section goes on like that, that'll pop in there, and that will get spot welded through there, and then that lip gets spot welded there, and then the outer sill goes over that. But this landing panel, where that is, determines where all the side of the car goes. So you have this sort of lip that comes out here, and it's all spot welded through there, and then it has that chrome trim go along it. No, I'm lying, it's not chrome, it's stainless steel, but anyway, that's it. So this is an important part. This is a very important part to get this about right. Did I say about right? It needs to be more than about right. It's very important this is right. So I've just made that up. We'll have a look at making one of them another time. But that's the idea. It has all the swages in it, and you know, and these lozenge shapes and everything. So yeah, we'll have a proper look at that. And these 2.4 Dinos are constructed in a different way. But one of the reasons I'm doing this one is we've got more information on this car to work with than we have on the other car. You know, the other Dino that would really extensive work. I mean, a lot of people would say this is a lot of work, but this is nothing like the other one, which we'll have a look at in a minute. So yeah, that's that one. So that's the one I've just made there. That's what we've got with this, isn't it? That's the one we've deconstructed from there to give us datums. But you can see there's not a lot of information here, but I do know that that stops there, and then that is just a flat plane, so we're all right. I worked that out, and you'll see it tapers. It's this end a lot thinner than that end, so it sort of flares out towards the front of the car, which seems counterintuitive, but that's how it is. And so you have to be very careful to replicate that right, as I say, because it becomes the datum for everything. That's our lower sort of, I don't know what you'd call that panel, but I've made a new one of them. That goes in there. So that, again, that's critical, because that becomes the datum off of this inner sill to then go to the boxing plate to then have the outer sill on it. So that's important. And then there, we've got some of that sort of boxing plate, for want of a better description. But we don't, you know, but even this was damaged, so we, you know, took out as much of it as we could. In fact, actually that goes that way up. And this is a thing that not many people know about on these Dinos, is that on a 2 litre, that goes straight all the way up parallel to the end. But you'll see on this, it gets fatter at the end here. That's a bit bent, so it's not sitting properly. See, I'm going to cut myself in a minute, aren't I? So yeah, so that, let's get that to sit about right. Yeah, so that line should be straight, and then that curls up that way. I can't really show it properly on here, but let's have a look on the car, and you'll see how it does. So if we look in this area here, that's where that kicks up there. So it kicks up there, so it goes parallel along this bit, all the way along there's parallel, that valley, and then it goes up here, and then it kicks up and goes wider, and that's because that floor's different. And that floor's different. You see, this floor sort of kicks up here. This is a slightly different floor, and that's because it has that thing where the independent rear suspension mounts up in there. So if we have a look back through here, you can see that independent rear suspension, how it sits, whereas obviously the 2 litre has the cart springs. So it's a completely different setup on the back of these. So they're very, very different. A quite different way of doing things. And that, with design changes, as with so many things, you have a knock-on effect. You change one thing, and then you find it starts upsetting other bits. And one of the little silly quirks of these, which not a lot of people know about, is that because they change that rear suspension, you have a little issue here. So here's where you have your boot hinges go through there, them chrome boot hinges, they go through there. And that's not a problem because, you know, you just want to get to them and undo them, don't you? That's not a problem. But because of the nature of changing the way the rear end is, you'll see when we take this boot off and have a look in there. Right, in here, now you can't get to them, you see? You can't get to them bolt, where that bolt on, you'd have nuts through there, you can't get to them, you can barely touch it. Get your fingers up in here, you just can't touch it, they're there, you see, because you've got a mount there. So in here you've got the top mount for the rear turret, because this is what carries the strut here, carries the rear suspension strut. Well, on the 2 litre you don't have a suspension strut there, you have your shock absorbers here and here. If you remember on the Roma video when I was talking about the shock absorbers and how it keeps the axle from tramping and moving around, or it's, you know, it doesn't quite stop it from tramping, but it's quite a sophisticated way of doing it with the 2 shock absorbers each side. Well, this goes over to a single strut, and of course then they put the strut there, that means you can't get to them. So if you want to get your boot off or replace the hinges, first thing you've got to do is drop your rear suspension down. So what you do is under here, that's your big shock absorber strut, and you have to undo it off of here. I'll get a light so we can see properly, otherwise that won't really illuminate the fact that it's not illuminated with a lamp. There's that rear strut, that goes up there, and you see the studs coming down off the bodywork. So if you undo them, that allows all this to drop down, and then you can get to undo your boot hinge. But obviously you don't want it all collapsing, so you need to keep it supported as you undo that, because otherwise you know it might drop down and the spring will try and escape. So you need, you know, at the minute the suspension's dropped down, but it's this strut holding it, stopping it from going any further. If I undid that, it'll pop down, and it probably won't go far enough for the spring to pop out, but it'll go far enough that it won't like it. So you'd have to keep that supported. So you keep that supported, and then you just let this come down on its hydraulic pressure. Now as it does it, it will try and move around a bit, but you can sort that out. But that's why it has these long studs, so it makes it easier to remount it and put it back up there. But without doing that, without sorting that out, getting that out, you can't get to it. But then you can go up through here and undo them. So a really stupid thing, you know, you get one of these sort of in for someone want to do some paint work and take the hinges off, take the chrome hinges off, and then how would you do that? Well, that's how. So yeah, it's a bit of a quirk, but that's what I mean. They changed the design, and then but you know, it is something you can overcome. It's not a problem if you know. But if you don't, you'll be scratching your head for a while thinking, how'd you do that? So there we are. That's that. So you're all bored now and want to go home. School's out. You can all go home and go out to play. And then next week, I'll test you if you remember any of it. Say good night.